I genuinely love, like I say, these little indie films because there's just so much heart in them. I will admit to you now, when I put it on yesterday, I was going to do some photo editing because sometimes I kind of do that, but I ended up just watching the film because I was so engrossed with it. It was just one of those films that was, like I say, it was quirky, it was original, and it was just I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was really good.
Yeah, well,
Um,
yeah, thanks, and I'm glad it got your full attention. I'm the same way. Sometimes I'll put on a movie thinking, "No, I'm not really going to watch this," and then it either sucks you in or yeah, you end up kind of doing two things at once.
Hello and welcome to the Last Movie Outpost for all of your movie news, reviews, and everything cool about film. Today we have got another wonderful interview to look forward to. Albert Birney is the director of a new movie called OBEX. Hello, Albert.
Hello, good to be here.
So, OBEX is a new indie film that you have just produced and starred in. How would you describe the movie for people who obviously are not quite familiar with it just yet?
Yeah, it's a 90-minute kind of horror fantasy film about a character and his dog. His name is Connor. The dog's name is Sandy, and they live a quiet life until one day Connor boots up a new computer game, and Sandy goes missing, and Connor has to venture into the strange world of the computer game to get her back.
Because I mean, this was set in what? It was 1987, wasn't it? So I mean, it was set in the 80s. So the computer that you had was very old school and large. What made you go down that route?
Yeah, there were a couple things. Those were the computers that I remember playing when I was a child. So when I was
Yeah.
just kind of becoming aware of what computers were, that's what they looked like. And when you make a movie, you can really create the world of the movie. You don't just have to film whatever is around. You can, find props and kind of have some fun with it. So yeah, usually with movie when I'm making a movie, I want to go into a world. I want to explore a world that maybe is a little different from the world I live in, today in 2026. So yeah, this movie, it was just kind of like exploring these early memories I had of being a kid and playing these early computer games. And you know when I go back and play them now, I'm like, oh, these are really kind of basic, simple games. But when you're 5 years old, 6 years old, they're huge and they blow your mind. And the movie was kind of trying to reconcile that feeling of these epic games that you remember as a kid, and then maybe they're not so epic as an adult. But trying to make a movie that kind of was in that zone.
The one thing that always annoys me is when I go back and play these old games is how incredibly hard they were.
Yeah. Oh, it's crazy. I mean, and you get three lives. Maybe you get to continue, but these early Nintendo games, I would save up money, and I'd spend 45, $50 at the toy store, and I'd bring it home, and instantly I'd be like, I have made a mistake. This game, I'll never get past the first level, you know. And nowadays you have kind of unlimited lives, and you can just kind of play for fun. And while I do appreciate that, there's a part of me that wonders, these kids growing up today with these easier games, what are they missing out on?
Oh no, yeah, no, I totally understand that. I downloaded the Tomb Raider, the original, and what I completely forgot was there were save points because there wasn't any. And of course, you'd sort of play through for a good half an hour, then die and go, oh, God.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
was it quite a challenge then to make the movie into 8-bit in certain places?
No, I've done a lot of 8-bit animation. I have other films that I do entirely in 8-bit. Uh,
Okay.
there's this animation I do called Tux and Fanny, and I'm currently animating my third feature film in that style. So for me, it was almost the challenge was to not do the whole thing in that 8-bit style. I could have, but this movie was kind of fun because it was combining all my different kind of passions and hobbies and things, and um, my love of that style. So anytime it would go into that kind of 8-bit or early pixel art, I would just that was where I was really having a lot of fun.
Yeah, fair enough. So you play Connor in the movie, and the main well, I want to say the main protagonist, but we're going to come on to Sandy in a little bit because she's kind of the main protagonist, I think. Um, but is it then weird directing yourself? Are you somebody who's comfortable doing that?
Yeah, well, with this project, because it was such a small production, it just really made sense for me to be in front of the camera. There was maybe like a day where I was thinking about getting someone else to do it, and I just kept coming back to the fact that it was going to be so much fun to do it myself. And if I had another actor doing it, I think I'd be micromanaging their performance and just kind of really annoying them. And so it wasn't that difficult, and because we shot in my actual house with my actual dog, it was very kind of natural. It was just like another, random Wednesday. We weren't doing anything too crazy.
Fair enough. So, I mean, let's talk about Sandy, the star of the movie. She's played by Dorothy. So, as you just said, she's your dog, but yeah, you've obviously had her for quite a while.
Yeah, well, we got her in 2021, and when we started filming this was
Oh,
2022. So, when the idea for this movie kind of came around, she was still kind of new in our life. Now, we're going on our 5th year with her here, and she's a part of the family in every sense of the word. Um, but yeah, it was one of those things when we got her, it kind of unlocked so much of the idea of the movie, and also just like completed our life. You think, I don't know what we would have done without this dog in our life. Um,
yeah.
yeah, so she became a muse.
Yeah. And I mean, with it, I don't want to spoil too much because I want people to go and watch the film. But I mean, again, it's quite a pivotal moment of the whole thing of Sandy's existence is down to Connor. Again, is that something that just sort of came about by chance or
Yeah, well, playing these early Nintendo games, Legend of Zelda, you're always on like a quest to rescue the princess, or to, Mario too. You got to get to the princess, and it, without giving it away, the dog became kind of the princess in Connor's life. He doesn't have many friends or family or anybody around, so it was like this dog is 100% his life, and who he kind of talks to throughout the day, and who he's with,
sings to?
yeah, sings to. And so it just it and it, again, when this idea first started coming to me, there was no dog, and I just can't imagine the movie without it. It really kind of, I don't know, connected all the dots, and became, what the movie is.
Oh yeah, it's like I say, I really want to talk about the ending, but I don't want to. But it was just it tied up so nicely of how if you've got an animal and you've got a responsibility, you need to look after said animal, don't you?
Yeah, and that's, I think, you know, it's like that thing of, who saved who. Did I save the dog, or the dog saved me? Uh, I know in my own life, like having Dorothy, she gets me outside, she gets me on walks, she just enriches so much of my life, in the same way that hopefully you're enriching their life, and it becomes this, beautiful kind of homeostasis of you're both enriching each other.
Oh, that's so nice. So, OBEX has been described as a Razorhead meets Legend of Zelda. Now, watching the film, I'm quite familiar with a Razorhead. It's one of those films that I do like a lot. Was there much inspiration from David Lynch?
Yeah, there definitely was, and there continues to be. Eraserhead is one of those movies I saw at a young age, and it just left a huge mark. And
Me too.
yeah, it's one of those special movies that you can revisit it. I revisit it every few years, and I still get lost in it. I still get, kind of swept away under its beautiful nightmarish vision. And so yeah, he's hugely influential for me. Not just Eraserhead, but many of his other films and projects. Just his whole kind of worldview, I think, is something he never kind of stopped creating, and painting, and just the way he approached art, and meditation, and all these things, where you're like, this is someone who seemed to kind of figure it out, and combine their passions in a way that created some, of my favorite films.
Yeah. Oh no, absolutely. Like I say, I'm a huge fan of David Lynch. Even his early stuff, like The Grandmother, with the sort
Yeah.
of animation and everything else. Again, I watched it at probably at too young an age, but it, like I say, had a huge, huge impression on me. So I
Yeah.
mean, the whole movie as well is done in black and white. What was the sort of decision behind that?
You know, it's one of those things that it just basically comes down to the simple fact that when a movie first starts to appear in your head and kind of take shape, the very earliest seeds, it just shows you what it is. And some movies appear and they're like neon pinks and bright greens, and other movies just appear and they're just, monochrome. And this one just was black and white. Um, and you don't think I didn't think too hard about it other than, the Eraserhead influence and these early Macintosh games being black and white and these early
Yeah.
Macintosh computers being black and white and the static from the TV being black and white. All these things I think were just all pointing to the fact that yeah, there was just not going to be any color. And then production wise, when I'm actually making it and working on like the visual effects and the special effects, the black and white was very forgiving, much more forgiving than color would have been. Because I'm doing everything myself, it makes it a lot easier. So it had a importance on that back end too.
The special effects really are good. For an indie movie, I mean, like I say, obviously, you get some bigger movies and stuff. If I may ask, what was the budget for the film?
Yeah, so it's kind of crazy. So when we filmed it in two sections. So the first section, when my friend Pete came to Baltimore to start filming, the entire budget for that section was just the cost of his plane ticket from LA to Baltimore. So we're
Right.
talking like $351 or something. And because he's got a camera and he's got the sound gear and he had a light and we're in my house, we were able to do it just for basically nothing. Then we edited that for about a year to try to finish the movie a year later. And for that section, we knew we needed some actors. You want to pay them. We knew we needed some more costumes. You want to buy those. So we ended up raising about 10,000 US dollars, which then you throw in another maybe like $4,000 in post production. So the whole thing is under 15,000 US dollars. Just and the way I look at it is like every movie is different. You can't make every movie for that cost, but we very much made this one because we could for that. We knew what we had access to, where we could film for free, and so yeah, it was dirt cheap, and but hopefully with some special effects and a little bit of razzle dazzle, it doesn't seem small. It seems like a normal, quote unquote, normal movie.
Again, from what I've seen with, because we get quite a lot of indie movies through, and like I say, I thoroughly enjoy them, for the majority of the time. But for what you see on the screen, when you're saying there it's like $15,000, when you look at something like The Electric State on Netflix, which is $350 million, and I'm looking at the screen and sort of thinking, I'm not really sort of seeing that money. Whereas people like yourself, obviously every penny is important, but you still make a really great film, which is totally engrossing. And ultimately, sort of the quality of it, I mean this in the nicest way, doesn't really matter, even if it was. But it didn't look like it was that cheap. And I'm thoroughly impressed by that. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and for me, it's like the if the passion of the filmmaker comes through, and if the kind of the love of the craft, the love of the making, I think you can see. And a movie that has 350 million, I'm just shocked by how much that is and where all that money goes. And I think when you get to that level, it's almost like filmmaking by committee. There's so many people that are working on the script, and so many, the people that are getting their 2 cents in, that at the end of the day, yeah, maybe it's harder to feel the kind of the voice or the original seed of an idea kind of gets washed away or something.
Oh, again, totally. Within Hollywood, you see how, films have got to be made for all the tick boxes and the demographics, and this has got to appeal to 15 to 20-year-olds and all this kind of stuff. Whereas indie filmmakers like yourself, you make what you want to make, and hopefully people will enjoy it.
Yeah.
But, it's the story that you want to tell. So, I mean, If you then, this is a right stinker of a question, but I mean, if you were given the chance to do like, a Marvel movie or a Disney movie or something absolutely huge, but you couldn't go back to indie movies, would you take it?
Oh, that is a stinker because you hear about these filmmakers who do like the one for them and then one for themselves, right? Where they'll go do a Marvel or a Disney or something, and then they come back with what they've made and self-finance something, a smaller project, which I always felt like I could definitely imagine that. I could see how that's not the worst thing in the world. If it meant I could never do my own thing again, I want to say no, just because then what am I going to do with the rest of my time? I'm not. Am I just going to make these big movies over and over again, knowing that someone wanted to make the Electric State and was passionate about it, and then it got away from them, and it becomes this. I haven't even seen it, so I shouldn't talk shit on it. I can imagine what it feels like to watch that movie, and I would love to be able to always be able to just make, whatever small or crazy idea pops into my head and be able to do it my way.
I'm so glad that there are people out there that still do that, like I say, because otherwise it is done by committee, and it doesn't always turn out the best with stuff. So now we are going to have a quick fire round. Short, sharp answers. Don't have to be anything complicated unless you do want to talk about them. But tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Americans. I don't know. If it's not tea,
you know what? I will say I have been drinking tea before bed recently, the last 2 nights, and it's quite nice. And I'm thinking maybe this will become a new tradition to have a little cup of tea before sleep.
What actor would you most love to work with?
Oh gosh. For some reason, Jim Carrey popped into my head. I don't know why, but he seems like as he gets older too, maybe he gets weirder and
yeah,
is ripe for kind of like a strange old man role in the next decade or so.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah. What's the best movie ever made?
Ooh, Wizard of Oz. It's tough to say anything besides that. It's one that I just keep watching over and over again and always get lost in it. And it always feels like a movie that is being piped in from some future that we're never going to reach.
I understand what you mean by that.
Yeah.
So without saying Wizard of Oz, what's your favorite movie?
Oh gosh, I might have to go with Eraserhead.
Yeah, okay, that's fair enough. Good answer. Marvel or DC?
Ooh. Is there a third option?
Yeah, none of them.
Yeah, I'd say none of them.
You can go with that.
Well, as a kid, I did collect like the Marvel cards, the Marvel superhero cards. So I guess if I had to pick between Marvel or DC, I'd go Marvel. But I'm definitely not watching Marvel movies these days.
Not these days.
Yeah, I have friends who like them, and I like to get like a coffee with them after the big ones come out, and they tell me the movie. It's more interesting for them to tell me the entire movie than to see it.
Oh, fair enough. Favorite TV show?
Ooh, let's see. I grew up watching reruns of The Twilight Zone, and that is still
I'm watching those again, funny enough, at the moment. They are fantastic.
They're fantastic. They're each like a short film, and just, it's tough to beat those for TV. More contemporary, let's see, all the usual ones that people like, Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul and
Keeping Up with the Kardashians.
Yeah.
I can't imagine you watching that somehow.
No, I don't think I've ever seen an episode of that, but
I'm proud to say I haven't either.
Yeah.
If you could direct a film from the past, what film would you most love to have directed?
Wow. geez, I can't say Wizard of Oz again, but sometimes I just dream about those sets and those costumes and how fun it would have been to play in that world. Um, yeah, well, let's see. Jaws would have been a fun one to be on that boat and to be on the water.
Apparently it wasn't, but
I guess it was really difficult. That's something I think about recently is like, I think it's always so very hard to make movies. And then you kind of, for me personally, I forget that because I think you have to, or else you wouldn't do it again. When I look back
yeah.
on it, like, you remember all of like the fun and all the good stuff. And then, you're on your next movie and you're just, God, I can't believe I'm doing this again. This is so hard. And so I would love to like go back and do like to figure out the fun version of Jaws or like the version that like wasn't hard, but I don't know if that's exists. Maybe it's a dream.
Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star Wars.
That's the right answer. Have you ever been starstruck by anyone?
Oh gosh. One time I was in a grocery store in New York City and Cameron Diaz was walking around near me, and it was the kind of thing where I didn't notice her, but I felt the energy of other people noticing her,
Yeah.
and then when I actually like looked to my right and she was standing right next to me, I think in that moment maybe I got starstruck for a second, and my instinct, instead of saying anything, or I just kind of ran away. I was like, I shouldn't be.
Yeah, no, I've been in the same situation myself, and yeah, no, I totally understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Favorite band or singer?
Oh gosh. Well, Bob Dylan is someone that I can never get enough of, and I keep just listening to over and over again. I love the Magnetic Fields, Stephen Merritt and the Magnetic Fields, and yeah, maybe Neil Young I'll throw in there too. Neil Young's another person I can't get enough of.
What's the most amount of takes you've ever had to do?
Ooh, gosh. And again, maybe I've forgotten the hard parts, but maybe on Strawberry Mansion, a film that I co-directed with Kentucker Audley, we may have gone up into the double digits once or twice. Just some takes, not because we weren't getting it, but just because there was a delicate balance with the camera and the acting and just trying to nail it. So let's say 12 takes.
So Sandy was very good, and she was very good with her cues.
Dorothy,
I should say.
Yeah, Dorothy, aka Sandy, in the movie, she only needed one take, and she usually nailed it. She was the best.
Consummate professional.
Oh, she's incredible. And we definitely had some treats that she was getting off camera to help keep her motivation going. But yeah, if we did any more than 3 takes, she didn't need that. She was done.
That's the end of our quickfire round.
All right. Very good.
So what projects have you got coming up?
Well, always have a couple that are in various states of pre-production and writing. And Kentucker, who I made Strawberry Mansion with, which is the one before OBEX, he and I have our next one that we're trying to get made. And it's a bigger film than OBEX, so you have to you have producers and there's an actual budget, and so we're just kind of working on that, just chipping away, and then in the meantime, I'm animating my little 8-bit pixel people, Tux and Fanny. I'm working on the 3rd film, so that's what I'll do at the end of this day when I get off this call. Is I'll get right back to work at just drawing these little creatures, and
are they available on?
Yeah,
are they available online anywhere?
Yeah. The first 2 Tux and Fanny movies, you can find them on YouTube if you just search Tux and Fanny. And I realize that Fanny has a different meaning over where you are. I've been in the comments on the videos. I can usually tell if someone's from the UK by how they respond. But yeah, I'm very proud of them. They're very personal little films, but they're fun, and they keep me busy while I'm waiting to make the bigger movies.
I shall put a link in the description because I want to go and see them myself. Yeah. So back to OBEX. Where can people see OBEX?
Yeah, well, I think it's gonna be streaming pretty soon in the UK.
I think it's the 9th, as I
Yeah,
recall,
that sounds about
the
right.
9th of March.
Yep.
Because funny enough, we've got like an embargo on the review, which can't go up till Monday. But what I will do is combine that with this interview. But where are we? I just will double check, but I'm sure it was the I'm sure it was the 9th that we said.
Yeah.
Are you coming over to Glasgow for the premiere, or?
Yeah, I'll be there. I'm flying over this Saturday, and
Hey,
it's playing the second and third in Glasgow, and the second is actually my birthday, so it'll be a fun
double whammy.
yeah, double whammy. And uh, to it's interesting. I'll be turning 44, and actually my 22nd birthday I spent in London, so it's this very strange 22 years later I'll
Oh
be
yeah.
back
In
over.
six, when you're 66, yeah, you'll be over again.
That's right.
Um,
Make sure.
I can't recommend OBEX enough. It was one of those films that was quirky, it was fun, it was original, and I genuinely enjoyed the entire process. And I love the ending as well, which again, I'm not going to spoil, but you just have to watch it. But Albert, thank you so much for joining us here at the Last Movie Outpost.
Yeah, thanks. Great questions. I had a blast, and yeah, hopefully, if you're watching this or listening to this, you'll go check out OBEX and check out that ending because I quite like it too.